Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching a movie on what if Naruto doesn't want to become Hokage after defeating Akatsuki. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
What keeps me in Konoha? As he walked around the village, Uzumaki Naruto would repeatedly ask himself this question. He had accomplished a great deal for Konoha, including stopping pain, one of the main threats during the invasion, convincing the 5th Hokage to accept and be the Hokage in the first place, completing his missions flawlessly, giving it his all, bringing back Sasuke Uchiha, and permanently eliminating Akatsuki. However, because he was still the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yuki, the most powerful of the 9-tailed demon beasts, who continuously believed Naruto to be the demon itself and refused to believe otherwise no matter what he did, he still felt that the village was hostile toward him, that nothing he did was ever enough, and that they still loathed him. Despite the fact that the Yondaime Hokage, one of the strongest and smartest ninja of all time, wanted him to be a hero, he could see the mistrust in the glares they still gave him. He wasn't needed in Konoha, either as a person or as a shinobi. Why stay, then? He had Konohamaru, Iruka, who was like a father to him, Kakashi, who was like an uncle, the Hokage herself, Tsunade, who was like a mother to him, or a grandmother as he called her, and even some of the Jonin, who he thought were valuable enough to stay, but that was not a good enough reason for him. Even after Team 7 was finally reunited, he still didn't feel like he belonged. He wanted to be needed and accepted by everyone, not just a select few. However, he was aware that he would never find love in Konoha again, especially after she passed away. He was too late, and all the girls he knew were already in love. When Sasuke returned, he told Sakura that he felt the same way. Naruto found it extremely painful to see them together, not only because Sasuke was seeing Sakura, who would reject him whenever he attempted to hang out with them. It was harsh, and he felt that friends shouldn't treat each other that way. Ultimately, though, they had each other. Shikamaru and Ino started dating. Shoji was seeing the daughter of the ramen stand owner. Kiba and Shino had each found a member of their clan. Neji had a relationship with Tenten. Lee had met and fallen in love with a girl not far from Wave Country, and he was presumably the only one without a companion. Furthermore, the only person who would spend time with him, the only person who had loved him for all those years, had passed away in his arms with no chance of recovery, and he was powerless to bring her back. His first kiss had been her last, and he would never be the same again, she finally told him, her voice hoarse and silent, her breath hollow. He wanted to leave, but he would stay as long as his beloved people welcomed him. He heard a familiar voice speaking as he made his way to the ramen stand through the village. He recognized the voice because his senses had developed to the level of a fox over time. One of the primary reasons he remained in Konoha was Sakura. He depended on her and hoped that eventually Sasuke and her would split up and she would realize that Naruto had her heart, but he knew that would never happen. However, it didn't stop him from wishing. As he got closer, he realized she wasn't alone and smelled Ino and Tenten's scent through his nose. Naruto, who was not stupid but dense, quickly figured out that it was a girl's conversation and lowered his chakra signature so as not to interrupt them. He then moved in the direction of the ramen shop. He heard one of the girls, whom he thought was Ino, mention his name in a conversation as he got closer to the store. "So, Sakura, what will you do about Naruto now that you're with Sasuke? Everyone is aware that he has been swooning over you," Ino remarked. "I'm not sure. That thought never occurred to me. He will be alright, though. However, it is regrettable that he was unaware of Hinata's affections until her passing. Naruto is real. He's very dense. With the way he thinks, I sometimes question whether he is really suited to be a ninja," Sakura said. "If he ever finds a girl for him, I wonder. It would make me feel bad for her. He may be a good-hearted shinobi, but sometimes he needs to relax. His loudness and hyperactivity will kill him on missions. What's up with all the orange, really? He toned it down a bit, I know, but what a strange color." Ino uttered those words. As he hurried to his apartment, all he could think about were Sakura's remarks, but he left before hearing what the other girl had to say. "I sometimes question whether he is really suited to be a ninja." He had no reason to be in Konoha anymore, and Naruto wiped his eyes as salty tears trickled down his whiskered cheeks. He had struggled to stay in Konoha ever since Jiraiya and the late Sarutobi, who had been his two main sources of support, had passed away, and now that they were gone, he could not bear to be there for another day. When he arrived at his apartment, he gathered a large number of scrolls and threw his few possessions inside. He packed his clothes, weapons, and all of his food, mostly ramen, into his bag and stared at the Team 7 photo for a while before putting the frame face down. He whispered, "Goodbye Team 7, as he retrieved his keys and shut the door for the final time. Office of the Hokage. The Godem Hokage Tsunade said, "Come in." As the door opened, she gazed into Naruto's eyes, which were once glistening and curious but were now painfully dull blue and held a look of hurt. "What is the matter, Naruto?" Her mouth hung open as she looked at Naruto, who had a leaf symbol. Less forehead and tears streaming down his face, and silently demanded an explanation as she continued to fill out paperwork. She heard the clang of metal on her desk, and her head jumped up and locked eyes with the Hide.8 of the leaf on the office floor. He just said, "I'm tired," and stepped forward, dropping his bag. "Every time I go down the road, the villagers stare at me, and I'm sick of it. I've assisted in rebuilding the same road, and I'm sick of people calling me stupid because I didn't receive the right instruction when I was younger." As he approached her, he said, "I'm sick of the rumors that I'm a demon and that I should be dead by now." Tsunade slowly got up from her seat as Naruto went on. "I give missions my all. I defeated Akatsuki, I returned that traitor to Konoha, and you know what they told me? They claim that I don't follow Shinobi protocol and that I'm not suited to be a ninja. I will always be the last to die, regardless of what I do. Be foolish at all times, be too late for love, and now." As he released all of his suppressed emotions, Naruto shook and remained silent. "I never knew that she was gone, and now I will never know what we might have been. I will always fall behind." The final word was shrieked by Naruto, who then fell into Tsunade's arms and stayed there for a while before continuing. "The village will never respect me, no matter what I do. So I'm finished. I'm beginning anew. I'm not willing to work for Konoha. I'd like to leave. I'm going out of this village," Naruto muttered. "Where are you going?" Tsunade whispered to him, and Naruto quickly stated where he was going. "Suna, how about Naruto in your dream?" Tsunade stated that she would do everything in her power to keep her little brother in Konoha because she did not want him to leave. "What about the vow you made to Neji? Was your dream to avoid recognition? When you became Hokage, did you not promise him that you would make that change? Are you aware that Konohamaru believes you will be the 6th Hokage and wants to be the 7th? Don't you want to show everyone that you're worthy of being Hokage? If you don't want to be a leaf nin, how are you going to become a Hokage?" Tsunade inquired. She remained silent and gave Naruto time to consider his options. She was confident that she was correct and that he would change his mind. After claiming that she was correct, he would gather his belongings and head home. According to his croak, "You're right. I still want to become Hokage, but not living like this. Therefore I will make you a deal, Ba-chan," he replied. The last time someone used the word, deal, he never came back. "I'm listening," she said, her face contorting at the word. "I'd like to spend 5 years in Suna. I'd like to start a new life there. I'll be back in 5 years. I'll go back to being a leaf nin if things have changed. I'll remain in Suna if the villagers continue to treat me coldly, which I'm sure they will. Are the terms acceptable to you?" After gently pushing himself from her embrace and wiping away his tears, Naruto sat down in her office's guest chair and asked. He sat down, and Tsunade put her hands behind her back and went to the window to gaze at the Hokage monument. She considered using the trump card, which would almost immediately make him reconsider his decision to leave, but ultimately decided he needed a break. Tsunade responded, "You have a deal, Naruto," as she turned around and penned some words on a scroll. "I'll let Suna know to anticipate your visit. When would you like to depart?" Tsunade inquired. "Now," said Naruto. "Now?" Tsunade's expression turned to one of perplexity as she asked. "At this time, I don't want to see any allies. The true reason I'm keeping a secret is something I want to keep private." Naruto got up from his seat and picked up his bag, saying, "Tell them I went on a long mission or something." With a, "Fine," Tsunade stood up and reached into a drawer, removing a scroll that Naruto recognized as a blood seal right away. "I want you to read that scroll while you're in Suna." As she gave him the scroll, she remarked, "I think you would want to know and learn about some of the things it contains." "Thank you," Naruto said. After a brief exchange of words, he picked up his bag to leave the office and go to Suna, but just as he was ready to say goodbye to Tsunade, the door knocked. Tsunade said, "Come in," and Naruto cursed himself for not leaving sooner when the door opened. "You called Naruto, Hokage. Why are you here? And why are there scrolls in a bag?" Sakura inquired as she and Sasuke soon followed Sai into the room. Tsunade interrupted Naruto before he could respond. "Naruto has been assigned a task that will require some time to complete. Naruto, you can leave now. I wish you luck," she said. Without saying goodbye to the three, Naruto quickly flew out the window and, presumably, out of Konoha forever after whispering a quiet, "Thank you," to Tsunade. Where is Tsunade Sama going? Sakura inquired. As she sat down and took out a glass and a bottle of sake, Tsunade said, "That, I cannot tell you." Judging by the Uchiha's expressions, she would be subjected to a great deal of interrogation from the two of them. After 2 days, as he pulled out of his bag a cloak that most ninjas use to cover themselves from rain, snow, and more, Naruto's eyes caught the sight of a figure slowly approaching him, and as he got closer, he knew exactly who the two were. Naruto moved through the forest at speeds that were comparable to Lee without weights, using his demonic chakra, which he had complete control over ever since he had fused with the demon, and reached the sand dunes in record time. "Kankuro, what are you doing, Temari?" Naruto smiled at the two who approached him and asked. "What are your thoughts?" "We came to collect you." Kankuro patted Naruto's shoulder and took his bag for him. "We just had to find out who when Konoha sent word that a nin would be coming to stay here for 5 years. Didn't know it would be you though," he said. "Thank you." "Yes, at that moment, Konoha was simply too much for me to bear." It would have continued until Kankuro turned around and started moving into Suna, but Naruto stopped when he felt a pair of eyes pierce into him and made eye contact with Temari. "I just needed some time to breathe," he said, smiling and scratching the back of his head. The two of them looked at each other awkwardly in silence as sand clouds drifted past the three. "Hey. Will you two be together or will you spend the entire day staring at each other? We need to move on, even though I think my sister is adorable." The two broke eye contact at that statement, flushed with shame, and started to move to catch up to a swiftly approaching Kankuro. "Why the appearance?" At last, Naruto inquired. As she drove farther away from him, Temari remarked, "I'm just wondering if you're going to annoy me for the next 5 years. Naruto muttered to himself, "I wonder where she picked up the coldness, given that she lives in such a hot place like Suna." When the three arrived at Suna's gates, the guards welcomed Naruto right away and showed no signs of resentment or hatred. "I think I'm going to like this place for the next 5 years," Naruto was thinking. Kankuro said, "You guys go on ahead, I will drop your stuff off." Naruto, and then he picked up his bag and scrolls and left. "I will see you guys later." Naruto finally asked Temari the question he had been thinking about after walking for roughly 5 minutes in the direction of a location he had no idea about. "Where are we going?" he inquired. Temari said bluntly, "The Cage Tower. Look around you, Naruto." "Sorry if I don't know Suna like the back of my hands. It's not like I lived here before, you know," replied Naruto. Temari said, "Whatever, let's go," as they eventually approached the Cage Tower within a block. The women and villagers gave Naruto a lot of looks and giggles as he passed. He was genuinely shocked by this. Back in Konoha, the majority of the villagers would curse at him or send tiny specks of murderous intent. As the villagers passed by, he noticed that most of them had no such intent in their eyes. He thought he might have seen a village girl wave. "I think I am going to enjoy my time here in Suna." "Gaara!" Naruto exclaimed as he walked into the office, wearing a sly smile. Gaara stood up from his chair and grinned at his best friend, saying, "Naruto. I have heard you will be staying in Suna for the next 5 years, Gaara replied. Naruto said, "You betcha," while shaking his friend's hand. "Well, I hope you don't mind, but you will be living in our place," Gaara replied. "No problem at all, but I am really hungry. Got any ramen stands?" replied Naruto. Gaara went to his desk and put on a draw. "Yes, not too far from our place. I will get Temari to escort you around the village. But as you are going to be in Suna, first things first," he said. He stood in front of Naruto while he took out a scroll and a Suna Hite.8. Gaara declared, Gaara the Cage of the hidden village of the sand, present Uzumaki Naruto the rank of Jonin," as a vest emerged from the scroll. Then he threw the beige vest to Naruto and placed the headband in his hands. Naruto said, "Thanks Gaara," and removed his jacket. Then he glanced down at his attire and saw at once that the beige vest did not go well with orange. He rubbed the back of his head and smiled sheepishly. "Got any stores where I could get a new outfit?" As she and Naruto strolled through the village, Temari smirked slightly and remarked, "So, you are now a Jonin now, huh?" "It seems so. I was so busy fighting Akatsuki in the village that I didn't have time to compete at the Chunin exams. But honestly, it probably would have been too easy," Naruto replied. Naruto surveyed the village, observing the friendly faces that welcomed Temari and, somewhat unexpectedly, him. With every handshake and expression of gratitude he received, his face remained astonished and perplexed. The expression on Naruto's face made Temari laugh. "What's wrong? You look like you've just seen a ghost or something," she said. "It's just that, I would never get thanked in Konoha by the villagers. I'm just a little overwhelmed, he replied. Temari smirked as she tried to control her escalating laughter. Well, to be honest, this is just the beginning, she said. Naruto put both hands behind his head and scrunched up his eyes, asking, beginning? Of what? Well, once news hits the village that one of the men who saved the Kazekage has arrived for the next couple of years, the women will soon swoon over you, Temari stated. She laughed uncharacteristically at Naruto's expression as his mouth hung open and he yelled, Nani? Reverberated throughout the community. Naruto became aware that this was the first time he had ever heard Temari laugh when she had finished laughing. Naruto said, Hey, why are you so happy? I'm not, Temari declared as they eventually made their way into the Suna Ninja's main clothing store. The woman stated bluntly, You're just a funny guy. Naruto muttered to himself, as he surveyed the space. Naruto made the snap decision to wear a number of white tops and all dark blue pants. He hurried into the changing room and emerged wearing the Suna vest and his new clothes. Temari teased, Now you look like a real ninja. Coming from a girl who fights with a fan, Naruto shot back, grinning, and Temari became enraged at once. Are you implying that I'm not a ninja simply because I have a fan? Temari inquired. No, you stated it. You probably don't know the least bit of taijutsu. That fan of yours is probably the source of all your power, Naruto remarked, his smile growing. Let's go out as that's it, Naruto. When she caught him by his flak jacket and pulled him to the door, Temari screamed. But wait, I didn't pay and it's free. Before the door shut, the man yelled. Temari released him, took a fighting stance across from him, and said, Okay, Naruto, let's go. Whatever you say, Naruto said, dropping into his stance and looking around as a curious circle formed around them. His foxy grin grew as he started to quickly plan in his mind. So, what are the guidelines for this quick fight? Naruto uttered those words. Temari responded, No ninjutsu and no genjutsu, raising her arms in an offensive stance. Naruto said, Okay. He moved and attempted to punch Temari in the face, but she sidestepped and gave him a roundhouse kick with her right leg in a flash, causing him to fall forward but push off the ground and land on his toes. You're fast, said Temari. You would be too if you had training with Rock Lee like I had. Naruto smirked in response. In a subsequent blur, he started delivering a series of set moves, including a left kick, right punch, and a right punch. Temari ducked 3 of the blows before taking a punch that nicked her chin, sending her 3 steps back. She growled as she touched her chin. She thought, he just nicked my chin, and it hurts like this. I'll admit, Naruto grinned as he deliberately lowered his defenses. You're somewhat skilled in taijutsu. Naruto started to say, but you're still not all that go. But Temari ran at him and started to throw a barrage of punches and kicks, which Naruto avoided with frightening accuracy. They both landed on the floor simultaneously, with Temari pushing off the floor and returning to her stance while Naruto pushed off the floor while spinning and landing on his toes. She then sent a roundhouse kick aimed at his ribs with her left leg, but he grabbed it with his right arm. She then lifted off the floor and kicked him with her right leg to the side of his head. Naruto gave her no time to catch her breath because he was on her the moment she stood up. He kicked her in the shin with his right hand, then shoved her in the stomach with his palm open. He then performed a left sweep kick, and as she jumped, he pushed off the floor with his hands and kicked her high in the air with his right leg. As soon as she was upright, he started punching her in the arms, legs, and ribs from behind. Then he grabbed her and wrapped his legs around her. Temari closed her eyes in terror and felt nothing. All right, Temari. Well done, Spar. As soon as she opened her eyes, she discovered that Naruto's arms were still around her, but they were inches off the ground and somehow not touching it. Temari blushed as she felt Naruto's powerful arms encircling her, and as they touched the ground, Naruto flipped back up and let go of Temari. You have some decent taijutsu. As the villagers applauded the performance, Naruto remarked, but you need more work. Temari's curiosity was the only thing keeping her from pulling out her fan and blowing Naruto away. What prevented us from touching the floor? Temari inquired. Naruto said, because I used a wind jutsu to keep us from hitting the floor. Oh yeah, I have an affinity for wind, with a hint of excitement and sarcasm. As soon as the villagers closed the distance and started speaking to Naruto, Temari turned around and left. How did he become so powerful? This brat from the Chunin exams, isn't it? He was strong, I know that, but how strong did he get? Naruto soon caught up with her, interrupting her thoughts. Hey, I was calling you. Why did you keep on walking? Naruto responded. Temari said angrily, sorry, I was thinking. Where do you want to go? She had a lot of faith in her abilities, so losing to Naruto in front of the villagers infuriated her. She was regarded as one of Suna's strongest kunoichi. Given how quickly she lost to Naruto, many people would likely comment on her abilities. Naruto said, "Well, I'm hungry. Are there any ramen shops nearby?" Then she muttered, "Yeah, let's go." I thought that ramen was quite tasty. As he and Temari made their way to the house, Naruto remarked, "But Ichiraku's is way better." "Don't you eat a lot of ramen?" Temari inquired. "Yes, I do. My favorite food is ramen. I eat every kind of ramen. There are a variety of ramen options, including miso, chicken, beef, pork, and sweet and sour." Temari continued to think, blocking out his voice. He's a tough fighter, but occasionally he can be really annoying. When they finally got close to the house, she interrupted herself. She said, "We are here." When Naruto approached a house that was on par with the Hyuga's mansion in size, his mouth fell open. "This is your home, right?" Naruto stumbled. "Well, the cage is Gaara. What were you anticipating?" As she opened the front gate, Temari smirked and asked. Naruto's eyes widened even more as he entered the house, and he made 5 shadow clones to look around while Temari led him to his room. As they ascended the stairs, they came to a long hallway with at least 20 different doors, and Temari continued walking, stopping at a few doors to let him know if it was the bathroom, Gaara's room, or Kankuro's room. She then stopped in front of a door with a number of kanji written on it, and Temari turned around to see the glint in her eye and knew she was serious. "My room is this. Under no circumstances may you enter my room without my personal permission. If you do enter, you must remain motionless until instructed to do so. I'll kill you if you enter my room without permission." Temari grinned at Naruto's nod, and Naruto shivered and started to perspire as a strange red and screaming genjutsu materialized behind her as her head grew larger and a massive fan emerged. "All right," Temari said, "now for the next room," as the evil aura swiftly dissipated. "I'm afraid of this girl," Naruto thought to himself. Temari approached a room nearby and said, "This is your room." She then gave him a key and unlocked it, allowing Naruto to enter a room that had a large king-sized bed, a nice, cozy couch, a large closet, and a door that he assumed was the bathroom. Temari spoke as Naruto entered slowly. "Find anything you need on your own. Don't go into my personal space," she said, "room," and shut the door. After murmuring to himself, "I must make sure I don't ever have to go in that girl's room," Naruto's shadow clones appeared and he quickly became familiar with practically every room in the house. After taking off his clothes, he went to the bathroom for a much-needed shower. After taking a shower, Naruto wrapped a towel around his waist and walked over to the mirror. He gazed at his well-defined figure, blue eyes, and disheveled blonde hairstyle. As he smirked and gestured to himself in the mirror, Naruto remarked, "Not to be cocky, but Uzumaki Naruto is a handsome fellow." Then he walked out of the bathroom without locking the door. A huge error. As soon as he went to lock the door, it flew open, and Temari entered carrying several scrolls. The moment Temari caught herself staring at Naruto's body, her eyes widened and her face flushed. "Hey Naruto, Kankuro said to drop your scrolls off in your room, said Temari. Naruto turned red as a tomato and froze in place as all of the scrolls fell to the ground. Gaara smirked as he passed, taking in the embarrassing circumstance before continuing on his way. There was an awkward silence for a long time while Temari's mind wandered. "Naruto looks so sexy. What's underneath that, I wonder? Aw no, Naruto is here. I shouldn't be considering what he might do with it." Temari had no idea that her nose was slowly starting to bleed. After shaking himself out of his reverie, Naruto gathered his clothes, went into the bathroom, and emerged in 10 seconds wearing a towel and his ninja gear. Naruto stammered, T Temari.san why? You're in. Nose is bleeding, while lowering his red face and slowly giving her the towel. Temari said, Thank you and Naruto, and she took the towel to start wiping her nose without making eye contact. I'll get the scrolls? Naruto exclaimed, Scrolls? Yeah, the scrolls, as he hurriedly picked up the fallen scrolls and rose to his feet, holding them in his arms just inches from Temari's face. Before yelling and making excuses, they stood there staring into each other's eyes. Temari hurriedly closed the door behind her and said, I got to go and prepare dinner. Naruto sat on the edge of his bed and declared, I'm going to read these scrolls now then. With a sigh, Naruto started to fix his room by opening his scrolls and establishing shadow clones. After a few minutes, his room was finished, and he made the decision to take a late night stroll around the village. As he shut the door, he turned to face Gaara, who yelled and jumped back at once, then clutched his heart and sighed, which only made Gaara's smirk more intense. "You're quite jumpy today, Naruto-san. All you did was frighten me. I'm all right." Then Kankuro opened his door across from Naruto, causing Naruto to once more. "What were you saying?" As Kankuro gazed at Naruto with interest and increasing laughter, Gaara spoke languidly. Kankuro muttered to himself, "I knew having this kid here would be fun," and shut his door. Naruto was a little afraid that he would discover that his sister had seen him half naked and wasn't going to be a victim of a desert coffin on his first day, so he eased his way to the stairs without taking his eyes off Gaara. I'm going to go take a look around the village, so I'll be back." Naruto sighed as he arrived at the bottom of the stairs, then looked at Temari. The two then yelled and quickly turned their heads away. "Well, I'm going to take a break," Naruto mumbled, losing all ability to form coherent sentences. "Look at the village." "All right, then." As she started to prepare dinner, Temari said, "See you later." Without wasting any time, Naruto opened and shut the door and went for a walk in the village. It seems that he attracted the attention of many of the village girls as he went by, and he became aware of this the moment they circled around him. He eventually stopped walking and turned to face the continuing group of women. With a wave and a foxy smile, Naruto said, "Yo." Then, as most of the village girls gave him the same staring gaze that he had witnessed the girls give Sasuke back at the academy, he made a shadow clone and switched places with it for a short while before moving on through the village. He eventually made his way onto a training area, where he saw several ninjas in training. Naruto immediately became cheerful and went up to them, dodging a hail of kunai that had come over from the nearby trees. After looking up and making eye contact with several ninja who were all staring at him at the same time, Naruto finally spoke. "For what purpose was that?" Naruto almost yelled. A man wearing his typical Suna Junin attire approached and said, "Just wanted to see if you deserved that Junin vest." However, he was wearing bandages over his head and a piece of cloth over the left side of his face. "Hey." As he approached the group of ninjas, Naruto said, "Baki." Baki then gradually introduced him to the Junin and Shunin that were present in the area. When he was introduced to many of the kunoichi, he noticed that the majority of them blushed or stammered when speaking to him, just like Hinata used to do. A slight ache came to him at the thought. He had to know the precise reason for their actions, aside from the obvious fact that they felt a certain way for him. At least that much, so he asked Baki. "You're not sure? They still remember that you saved Gaara." Baki smirked at Naruto's density and remarked, "Your name is the name of a hero around here." "A hero?" As he leaned back in disbelief and scrunched his eyes up, Naruto asked. "Yes." Baki shook his head and left, saying, "Honestly, what did they tell you guys in Konoha?" Naruto spent some time chatting with some more Junin before deciding to return to the house and waving goodbye to the Junin. And made a fool of themselves. Since they had been conversing with a shadow clone the entire time, the Junin were perplexed and immediately began attempting to identify the true identity of the man. In the ramen shop, the real Naruto, as he walked away from the ramen stand, Naruto said, "Thanks for the ramen." Naruto heard a lot of things being thrown and screaming as he arrived at the house. He hurried inside and ducked a kunai that had embedded itself in the door he had just entered, and from there he saw a running Kankuro, a Gaara sipping tea, and a red-faced Temari. "What's happening?" Sitting beside Gaara at the dinner table, Naruto uttered those words. Gaara's head moved from left to right as he said, "Kankuro made a joke about Temari seeing you naked." Naruto and Gaara's heads then moved from left to right simultaneously as Temari screamed a lot of foul words and threw a lot of shuriken while pursuing Kankuro. "Naruto!" Temari screamed, her face flushed and her murderous intent on the rise. "Well?" Temari took him by the collar and threw him at Kankuro with a stunning display of strength after Naruto responded and rose from his seat. "I didn't see you naked, so tell that pervert," she snarled. "But, yet what?" Temari called out as she took out her fan. Naruto said hastily before briskly sprinting upstairs. Kankuro chuckled while Temari pursued Naruto. "Hi, Gaara? How about we bring those two together?" Kankuro inquired. As he fixed up the room, Gaara's sand started to move upstairs and he said, "Let's." Upstairs, Temari entered Naruto's room and said, "Naruto, I'm sorry for walking in on you while you were while eyeing everything but Naruto." "Well, it's all right," Naruto said, "let's pretend it never happened." To Temari's mind, "I don't think I can." Temari said, "I'll try." Her eyes widened as she realized what she had just said. As she opened the door, Temari said, I got to go now. Good night, Naruto. I mean, forgotten. Good night, Temari. Naruto grinned and started removing his pajamas for the night. She felt a hand slap her butt as she opened the door and turned to close it, and Naruto felt something push him toward the door. He didn't know why, but he heard the distinct sound of sand, but he ignored it. He was about to push the door shut when his hand slapped something soft, and when he slowly looked up, the scene he had captured would give him nightmares for a month. He placed his hand on Temari's butt. Naruto swiftly moved his hands and backed away from her slowly as she took off her fan, placed it on the ground, and started slowly cracking her knuckles. Naruto, she said, looking at him and shaking with rage. I didn't mean to, Temari. Naruto stammered, I was trying to, but. You pervert, you will pay for that. Temari entered and shut the door behind her. Now I'll really show you how good I am at taijutsu. The door then became locked. Then the cries started. Kankuro laughed downstairs, and Gaara tried not to laugh while he heard cries and pleading coming from all over the house. Temari, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to grab you. Please stop. I'm sorry, Datbeo. Kankuro smirked and said, 5 months, according to Gaara, 5 months. My head. He was nowhere near her when she was leaving, but he found himself not only by the door, but touching her, acid. He sincerely hoped he would not have to cross paths with her after he was given one of the most painful beatings of his life by a Temari for violating her last night. Naruto slowly got out of bed in the early hours of the morning. Oh yeah, the scroll I was supposed to read. Naruto picked up the scroll, bit his thumb, and then smeared all the blood over it. As the scroll opened, a number of objects fell to the ground, and his eyes nearly burst out of his head the moment he saw what had fallen. I don't believe this, after 3 hours. The Sand Trio was preparing for the day, which included training Genin for the other two and completing paperwork for the case cage, while they were eating breakfast when they noticed Naruto had not yet descended. As she, HMPHED, and crossed her arms, Temari declared, I refuse to be in the same room with that pervert. What are you saying? What took place? Temari didn't notice the fake excitement in Kankuro's voice. My butt was slapped by that tiny pervert. That boy's nerves are unbelievable. Being a strong kunoichi, Temari snarled and wouldn't accept that slap of her acid. Kankuro smirked and said, well, you two better make up, because we're taking him to help train the Genin. What? Temari screamed and slammed her hands down, saying, I refuse to be a mere inch close to that ungrateful body snatcher. In his typical monotone, Gaara said, you have no choice in the matter. He then stood up, waved the two good byes, and vanished into a sand cloud. The two heard a loud, thunder-like sound, felt a tremendous amount of chakra being used, and then looked at each other before grabbing their weapons and running towards the area where they felt the disturbance, while Temari complained that if Naruto even looked at her, he would be pummeled to the ground. Practice area. The training ground was a total mess when they arrived. The walls were collapsing, the ground was cracked, and the source of the whole situation was lying in the center of the field with his shirt torn to pieces. What in hell was going on in here? Even though she thought Naruto's body was that of a god, Temari screamed as she turned her head away from him and felt her cheeks heat up from staring at his body. I'm just working on a technique I've been studying. Naruto started to scratch his head and pant in a huge crater, saying, didn't think 50 shadow clones could do so much damage though. What kind of kunai are these? Hold on a second. When Kankuro picked up an odd-looking kunai with a seal written on it, his eyes widened. The Yondaime's seal for his unique jutsu, indeed. Or, perhaps I should say, my dad's. As his hair grew and a cape with orange flames at the bottom appeared on him, Naruto said, hanging into his own version of the Yondaime, holding a rope around his neck that indicated he was a master of seals, then smiling and putting his thumb up in a nice guy pose. Your father? Temari's mouth dropped open as she spoke. You're correct. As he unhinged himself and started to pick up the kunai one by one, Naruto remarked, I always wondered why Jiraiya taught me many techniques that had to do with the fourth. So, what is today's schedule? When he eventually picked up the last of his kunai, Naruto uttered those words. Kankuro, still in disbelief that the boy in front of him was Konoha's son's fourth Hokage, said slowly, we got to train some genin today, so you're coming along with us. All right. Nice. I've been practicing this technique for at least 4 hours. Let me change my clothes, Naruto said. As he took the kunai from Kankuro's hands and sprinted past Temari, he said, even though I'm nowhere near finishing the technique completely, I should be able to get it fully down packed in about 6 months to a year. He didn't want to enrage Temari and would avoid her company all day if he could. When Naruto came back 15 minutes later, the two simply stood where they had been. Hey, I assumed you needed to train genin. The two jolted out of their reverie and departed the grounds to go teach at the Suna Academy after Naruto said this. Academy Suna, hello class, we have a new teacher today. This is Naruto Uzumaki and he will be teaching with us from now on. Naruto grinned and said, yo. He then felt several girls, googly eyeing him, and he scratched the back of his head nervously. I now understand Sasuke's feelings. Naruto thought, it's unbelievable that I was now envious of him. Almost all of the girls lined up in front of Naruto as soon as Kankuro said, okay class, you guys will break up and choose who you want to teach you. He immediately regretted this statement. Temari said in his ear, maybe you should have done a draft. She felt strangely attracted to the girls who surrounded Naruto for reasons she couldn't comprehend. With his face palmed, Kankuro muttered, I think I will. After 5 minutes, each nin had 5 students, and the class was divided equally. Gosh. Naruto said in a bored tone, so, normally, from what I've been hearing, I'm supposed to give you some dull old lecture about the history of training and why we are shinobi, blah, blah, blah. However, we're going to do things my way today. The 3 girls in his group started staring at him once more as Naruto pointed to himself. His perspiration briefly stopped before he continued. Naruto made a series of hand signals before 5 more Narutos arrived right behind him. Okay, I'm going to see what you 5 can do so, he said. What sort of cheap trick is that, huh? One boy remarked, and Naruto thought of ways to knock him off his high horse and bring him back to earth because he thought the boy had a similar attitude to Sasuke's. Alright, you go first, Mr. Tough Guy. As he struggled to come up with a name for the boy, Naruto remarked, let's see what you got, When one of the clones stepped up, the boy said, Kazuma Minashi. 1. He then assumed a battle stance, ran at full speed, and punched the clone with his right hand, which caused it to sidestep and push him to the ground. The boy's mouth opened wide as he truly felt the clone touch him. Hey, Minashi yelled, this isn't supposed to be a bunshin, it can't touch me. You're not correct. This is a bunshin cage. Naruto stated bluntly, every single one of these clones here has their own chakra. As the other 4 students went, Minashi realized right away that the girls were terribly bad at taijutsu, while the other boy in his group was fairly proficient. Humph. Minashi said, getting back up and dusting his clothes. All right. To the genin's dismay, Naruto remarked, after evaluating you 5, I would say only one of you guys pass at taijutsu. Who is the previous owner? I must be the one, Minashi said. You? Not at all. Azuma is the one who passed, Naruto said, pointing to the boy, who was wearing a dark blue ninja slack and a white shirt. The boy had brown hair and black eyes, and when Naruto called his name, his eyes widened. Me? Yes, you. You demonstrated your exceptional taijutsu skills. You did a fantastic job passing. After that, Naruto handed each of them a scroll and slipped it into one of the zippers on his flak jacket. At the end of the week, I will test your progress in taijutsu, so the 5 of you should concentrate more on it. And I might teach you 5 a new jutsu if you all recover, Naruto smirked. Sure. The 5 yelled. You're right, next up, we'll learn how to throw a kunai accurately. The first thing that functions incredibly well is. After 5 hours, as the class hurried off to be picked up by their families, Naruto approached Kankuro and said, okay, you guys have all done well today. Tomorrow we will meet at the same time, class dismissed. How was your group, then? Naruto inquired. They're doing fairly well, however, I have a feeling that all 5 of them will make excellent ninjas. Yes, I agree. However, I need to make some of mine work harder. The fangirls appear to have a serious need for training. With a slight shudder, Naruto remarked, I would hate for them to end up the way Sakura and Ino were when they were genin. Well, I understand what you mean. Their performance on the Chunin exams was appalling. I'm still curious how the 2 got this far, Kankuro remarked. Is it important? As Temari appeared, Naruto hurried to pick up the kunai, saying, anyway, I got to go and collect these kunai, I'll see you later. Naruto thought, woo, that was a close one. A voice said, excuse me. Naruto spun around with his handful of kunai and asked, He looked at the person in front of him and dropped them. He was approached by a girl with stunning purple eyes and dark green hair. She was wearing a white shirt underneath a Chunin vest and a short, knee-length tan skirt. Naruto's eyes left him and shifted to the curves of her body, almost causing a nosebleed. Naruto hurriedly picked up the kunai and said, yes, how may I help you? Why yes, my name is Saw. I came to ask about the progress of my little brother, the child replied. Naruto said, okay. And who might your brother be? As soon as the boy appeared behind the girl, Naruto's eyes widened. Naruto pointed to the boy, who had the same emotionless gaze that Sasuke used to give him, and said, oh, Minashi. She smiled amiably and said, yes. This is my brother, the next heir of the Kazuma clan. As he sealed all of the kunai in a scroll, Naruto remarked, well, Minashi shows promise. But he really needs to not underestimate people. He also needs to work on his taijutsu some more. I see. Thank you for the progress report, mister. Naruto shook her hand and smiled, saying, Uzumaki. Naruto Uzumaki. His smile made the girl flush, and she gave a little giggle. According to Naruto, what's so funny? Saw remarked, well, it's just that you're kind of cute. Naruto's face flushed instantly, and he stammered as he described how she was making him look foolish. At that point, Naruto made the decision to invite her to lunch. Hey Saw, are you busy right now? It would be my pleasure to take you and your brother out to lunch. I'm kind of new around here and I'm just trying to meet the people of this village, Naruto replied. As she and Naruto left, leaving a somewhat neglected Minashi, a smirking Kankuro, and an enraged Temari, Saw said, sure. Where did you have in mind? Temari asked herself, why am I mad? It's just Naruto, right? I can't possibly be jealous, can I? Then she snarled and started to leave the academy's grounds. Kankuro watched Temari storm off, grinning. Kankuro thought, somebody's a little jealous. After 3 hours, from the top of the cage tower, Temari gazed at Suna's landscape. She had been thinking about the blonde-haired brat for the last 3 hours. She was also furious with him for unknown reasons. If I see that brat I'm going to, oi, Temari. As soon as Temari recognized the voice, she shrank. She yelled at him, what do you want, pervert? Naruto's eye twitched at being called a pervert, and he stopped approaching her. Naruto yelled, take that back, I am not a pervert. Temari snarled, yes you are, you little punk. Naruto snarled back, punk? I am the same height as you. Temari turned to face him and asked, but who's the older one here? As his rage instantly transformed into the persona of a cunning fox, Naruto uttered, so what, age is nothing but a number. And you cannot call me a pervert. I saw the way you were looking at me. Temari's face flushed, and she stammered. She turned her head away from him and said, whatever, you're still a pervert. I am not, cried Naruto. You are. Temari snarled, take it back, and grabbed her fan. Murderously, Naruto said, take it back. What are you going to do with that fan? Blow me away. You're forgetting who also has a wind affinity. Naruto smirked as he placed his hands on his hips and wiggled. Before turning around and calming down, Temari snarled and a knot formed on her head. She kept gazing at the scenery and asked, what are you doing up here anyway? Naruto blushed slightly and said, I wanted to apologize. With an undertone of rudeness, Temari said, for being a pervert? Apology unaccepted. What? Come on. I am not a pervert. What do I need to do to prove to you that I am not a pervert? Replied Naruto. Temari turned around and grinned at him, and he immediately regretted it. Temari turned around completely and took a step closer, asking, what do you need to do to show you're not a pig? Naruto immediately retreated a step. Why? Yeah. Revealed Naruto. With a playful gleam in her eyes, Temari declared, I got the perfect idea. Naruto questioned, WH. What do you have in mind? Then Temari lifted her hand into the air. Naruto immediately covered his face and closed his eyes. He refused to be hit again, despite the fact that the Kyuubi made the wounds easily heal. Temari pointed at him and said, you are going to take me out. She might as well go out with him as friends and nothing else to work things out if she was going to discover why he made her feel the way she did. In addition, she was competitive and wouldn't let the green-haired girl he was seeing ruin her chances. Huh? Naruto said, lowering his defenses at once. Tomorrow night, you are going to get dressed up and you are going to take me on a night out on the town. But, it won't be considered a date. As such, don't touch me. Don't look at me, it is just going to be two ninja on a night out enjoying ourselves. That is how you can show me you're not a pervert. Temari stated with certainty. Naruto nervously scratched the back of his head and said, you got it. Temari said as she made her way to the roof steps, I refuse to go out with you in a ninja outfit, so you'd better ask Kankuro to get some new clothes. Naruto smirked, sending a chill up her spine, and said, oh don't give me that, don't let the orange fool you, I know a little bit about how to dress. She hurried out of the building, saying, "Pick me up at 7 tomorrow night. Don't be late." After observing the horizon for a while, Naruto asked himself a question he had been meaning to ask. Naruto asked himself, what did I just get myself into? And whoever heard of going out with someone but it not being a date? Weird. Kankuro looked perplexed and said, "So she wants to go out with you, but not as a date? This is unexpected." As they made their way through the village, Naruto barraged Kankuro with inquiries. "Yeah, whatever. So what am I to do? Where should I take her? What kind of flowers should I get her? Where should we go afterwards?" Kankuro questioned, "If it's just a hangout, why would you need flowers?" Naruto shrugged and remarked, "Good question. I just figured why not. Well, if I was hanging out with a girl, I wouldn't get any flowers. But, I'll tell you what, maybe you should buy some for yourself, if anything, to show her that you have the thoughtfulness to do so if she ever wanted to go out on a real date with you," said Kankuro while Naruto nodded. Kankuro declared, "And don't worry. You are a friend of the Kazekage and Temari is my sister. You are a pretty lucky man right now." Kankuro replied. Kankuro then took Naruto to a flower shop after he had shown Naruto a number of restaurants and made reservations at one called the Smooth Winds. Naruto remarked, "So the desert lily is her favorite flower?" According to Kankuro, "You got it. I guess I'll buy a dozen then. Now where can I take her after dinner?" Naruto asked. A woman's voice called out to Naruto before Kankuro could ask, and when the two turned around, they saw Saw and her brother Minashi approaching. As Naruto rushed up and they started conversing, Kankuro grinned. "Naruto has another girl who likes him, huh? Temari told him to take her out on this hangout, and I can understand why. She wants all of his attention for herself, even though she's not sure if she likes him. Temari, good luck." As Naruto and Saw continued their conversation, Kankuro thought, "You and I know full well this kid is dense." They then waved to one another and parted ways. Then, as soon as Naruto turned around, he froze and hurried to Kankuro. "Let me guess, she asked you out and you said the day after this hangout with Temari?" Kankuro replied. Naruto's mouth dropped open as he asked, "How did you know that?" Kankuro and Naruto continued walking around the village, and Kankuro said, "Can't tell you that. Anyway, let's put these flowers on standby." Naruto stopped a few times while they were still walking to help the elderly or give money to children. "This child has only been here a week, but he is already lending a hand. You really are strange, Naruto." Concurrently in Konoha, tell us, no. Tell us. No, Sakura and several of the Konoha 12, now 11, have been hounding Tsunade for information on Naruto's whereabouts for the past few days. The absence of the hyperactive blonde from the village felt strange to them. Even some of the villagers, shockingly, started to wonder where the hyperactive demon brat was. Sakura and Ino were in the office when she said, "Come on, Tsunade. Sama. You have to tell us why Naruto left, where he went, and how long he was gone. One of those would be okay." Tsunade was well aware that she couldn't tell either of them that since they would immediately attempt to persuade Naruto to return. "I can't tell you that, and I won't," Tsunade firmly stated. This mission's information has now been reinstated as an SS class mission before reviewing some documents. The two kunoichi were shocked to learn that the mission was an SS class mission, and they were certain that they would not be able to find out where Naruto went. "All right. Then simply let us know how long he will be gone." Sakura uttered those words. Tsunade hurriedly replied, "A long time." She hoped that would have been sufficient. She was mistaken. How much time is a long time? A year? A month? With a note of concern in her voice, Sakura inquired, "What should I do now that the one person she still relied on to lift her spirits had been gone for a while?" Tsunade let out a sigh and considered sharing this information, but ultimately chose to just say it. 5 years. Sakura let out a loud, "What?" that reverberated throughout Suna as Ino screamed, seemingly in response. "In the interim, have you heard anything, Kankuro?" did Naruto ask. "No, oh well." Naruto dropped the number of bags he was carrying as the two finally made their way inside the house. Though he believed he would have plenty of time, he immediately regretted not forcing some shadow clones to hold them. After that, he gathered his belongings and headed upstairs. A voice called his name as he approached the door of his bedroom. Then he turned to see Temari, wearing what appeared to be shorts and a shirt, staring directly at him. As Naruto gazed at the shirt that was clinging tightly to her body, he had to fight back a nosebleed. Temari waved the towel in his face to indicate that she was ready to leave. "Hey Naruto, I was about to head to the pool with some other nin. Want to come along?" she asked. She reasoned that this would give her more time to get to know him better, not too much. Normally, Naruto would have declined, but he reasoned that he might be able to meet Suna's other nin. Sure, why not, let me get change. See you downstairs in a sec, Naruto said, before shutting and opening his door. In less than 10 seconds, they opened it. When Naruto emerged wearing a tank top that flaunted his protruding muscles, swimming shoes, and a towel around his neck, Temari's face turned a terrible shade of red. Ready? Asked Naruto, not noticing the redness, or so Temari believed. Naruto touched her forehead and said, "Why is your face so red? You sick?" Naruto was well aware of the reason behind her flush. He was well versed. He simply enjoyed pretending to be stupid. It made him want to annoy Temari. Temari said, "No, I am perfectly fine," as she slapped her hand away and her face flushed. "Well, okay. Anyway, let's go," Naruto exclaimed, taking her hand and running with her down the stairs and out the door. Temari asked the one question she had been meaning to ask since they got out as they ran outside. "You don't, do you?" Temari asked. "Do you even know where the pool is?" The look on her face. Given that Temari's soft hands held the hand he typically used to scratch his head, Naruto laughed and used his other hand to scratch the back of his head. "I guess I don't," Naruto grinned. Temari said, "Follow me," and turned to walk in the opposite direction of Naruto. Naruto was standing behind her, his face very thoughtful as he started to consider. Does she realize that she is still holding my hand? In the swimming pool, a gourdless, makeup wearing Gaara and a nin with black eyes and excessively long, girlish looking brown hair that reached his shoulders welcomed the two as soon as they stepped onto the pool deck. With a frustrated expression, the man asked, "Temari-san, who is this boy that is holding on to your perfect hands?" When Temari looked down and realized she was actually holding Naruto's hand, she immediately let go, much to Naruto's chagrin. Naruto introduced himself right away. Naruto growled and then smirked arrogantly as he crossed his arms over his chest and looked around, attracting the attention of numerous blushing kunoichi. "Name's Naruto, not boy, though I wish I could call you a boy for that matter." "All right, I now genuinely understand why Sasuke ignored his fangirls." Naruto was startled from his reverie by the man's words. The man turned to Temari and said, "The name is Kairo, boy." After giving Naruto Aishi's so back off smirk, Kairo bowed to her and walked away, saying, "Temari-san, anything that you need, I swear I shall give it to you." His teeth sparked in a strange, dazzling grin that resembled Guy and Rock Lee. After a minute of blinking at the strangeness, Naruto left and took a seat in a pool chair. Since Gaara and Kankuro had not yet spoken, they simply shrugged and moved on to their own chairs. Temari then approached the kunoichi that lived by the pool, and as soon as she sat down, numerous of them rained on her. "Who is the attractive person you brought in?" one inquired. Her eye twitched as she said, "His name is Naruto." "Does he have a girlfriend?" "He's cute." Another girl asked another question before Temari could respond. "Temari, are you his girlfriend?" Temari stammered a no and went pale. "What made you hold his hand, then?" Temari was surrounded by so many questions that she was unable to respond. Naruto grinned as his fox senses picked up on every single thing the girls said, and he then approached Gaara and Kankuro. "Gaara, I see you've considered my idea for a shadow clone." Naruto sat on a chair beside them and uttered those words. "Yes, it has been very useful," Gaara said. Naruto relaxed and said, "Good." The three started discussing a wide range of topics, including the impending Chunin exams, the genin who would need to prepare for them, how the exams would once more take place in Konoha, how. "Hold on, what?" Naruto let out a scream, which set off a series of silences. Naruto quickly thought of a way to avoid embarrassment, even though he had no idea how. Outside the pool, "What is everyone doing? I say we all." Naruto quickly picked up Kankuro and tossed him into the pool before pushing Gaara in. "Jump in." The majority of the nin paled at Naruto pushing the cage into the pool. Many knew they would die just thinking about it. Naruto then backed up and ran before launching himself into the pool with a huge splash. This only led to more questions about this Naruto guy from both the nin and the kunoichi. "This Naruto is incredibly vivacious." As she and the others laughed, one kunoichi remarked, "I wonder what else he's energetic about." Before she felt something pick her up, Temari scowled at the perverted kunoichi. She turned quickly to see Naruto holding her, drenched, and wearing an evil grin. She knew immediately what he was going to do and would not be defeated easily. She snarled, "Naruto, you wouldn't dare." Naruto simply grinned. I apologize, but I am not Naruto. I am merely a clone who has been sent to throw people into the water. The Kazekage has given the order. You see? The clone then gestured to the kunoichi Temari was with. Temari scoffed as she watched the other kunoichi being seized by Naruto clones, barely resisting, and caught onto the clones to accompany them into the pool. Then I could do this if you're a clone. After giving the clone a fatal punch to the chest, Temari waited for the poof but was not given one before the clone took her in his arms and removed her from the grown bridal style. Did I say Naruto's clone? I meant Naruto himself. As Naruto ran to the pool and dove in while holding Temari, she was both angry and a little excited. She felt the cold water on her right away and realized something shocking. She had recently had her hair done for the get-together. As they surfaced from the water, Temari firmly grasped Naruto's neck. "What's the matter? Unable to swim?" Naruto teased, his smile disappearing as he saw Temari's irate expression. Temari snarled, "Na.ru.to, my hair," as she slammed her head against his. "You're going to go get your wallet after this. You will take me to a hair salon and then cover the cost of having my hair done again. Do I express myself clearly?" Temari said harshly in a whisper. As he slowly made his way to shore, Naruto whispered, "Crystal." Women were strange. He then shifted her body so that she was on his back, blushing intensely as he felt her assets on his back. When he finally stood up, a growling Temari slammed him underwater. "Baka no Naruto. I just had my hair done, so how dare you throw me in the pool?" Temari said, "You little punk. I should drown you right now." She picked him up and started choking him. As he started to get punched and strangled, Naruto remarked, "I can't tell if I'm better off with her or Sakura." Most of the people at the pool either grimaced or laughed at the sight. After 4 hours, Temari remarked, "Ah, that was relaxing." Naruto murmured, "Speak for yourself." "WTF was that?" Temari let out a cry. "Nothing." Naruto reflected on everything that had transpired at the pool as he and the other person walked back from the hair salon. Every time he glanced over to look at Temari, he noticed how angry she looked, and he had met the kunoichi, who had all given him their full attention once or twice during the conversations. He didn't mind and didn't know why he kept looking at her, but he also noticed that whenever a nin was around, he would get angry. As they got closer to the house, Naruto thought of the ideal plan and destination for Temari to go to after dinner. Naruto grinned and said, "Well, see ya tomorrow for our hangout." "Yes," she said, "good night, Naruto-kun." As the two shut their doors, Naruto said, "Good night, Temari-chan." He had forgotten the extra preferences until they had done so. All of this was heard by Kankuro as he counted down to the inevitable shout while reading his ICHA Paradise book on his bead. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I just said what? "Sensei, are you okay?" "Naruto? Sensei? What? What took place?" "You received a head kick. Please pay attention, Sensei." "Oh, I apologize. I'm just thinking about a lot of things right now. Guys, let's end the day now," Naruto said, getting up from the ground. He had just remembered fighting the 5 students he had been training when he started to think about a lot of things at once, including the fact that he would have to go to Konoha for the Chunin exams, that he would need to learn his father's jutsu, the hangout he would need to prepare for in 2 hours. "I got to go and get ready." Naruto sped out of the training grounds and headed to the house to get ready for the upcoming get-together. Everything was going well so far, with reservations at a nice restaurant, a spot he thought would be ideal for talking and taking in the village, a place to take her to after they went sightseeing, and some pretty nice treads he had purchased from the clothing store. To be honest, it was his first time hanging out with another girl, and he wasn't exactly accustomed to the idea, so he wasn't sure why he had prepared so much for it, but he felt he had to at least make a good impression. After 2 hours, when Temari's front door was knocked on and she opened it, Kankuro was standing in her doorway, beaming from ear to ear, which greatly irritated Temari. "Baka, what are you smiling for?" she inquired. "It just so happens that this is the first time my sister has gone out since the Shikamaru incident," Kankuro, leaning against the doorpost, said. Although her relationship with Shikamaru didn't exactly go as planned, Temari chose to keep quiet about it because, to her, life goes on. "Is that the reason you came to my door?" Temari inquired. She had a fan on her back, but it was a different one that looked more sophisticated but was still a deadly weapon. She was wearing a red yukata with a yellow wrap around her waist and a yellow dragon down the left side. She also chose to let her hair fall past her shoulders. "Well, there's someone at the front door waiting for you." Kankuro turned around and returned to his room, saying, "Don't keep him waiting." Temari was a little excited, but she quickly realized that Naruto would ruin this date in some way, so she stopped being excited. He would likely wear his same orange and black outfit, but she didn't mind as long as he took her out. She froze as she opened the front door and descended the stairs. The Naruto she was staring at had a long beige trench coat, a nice white button-down shirt, a dazzling necklace hanging in front, and beige slacks with brown shoes. His hind was behind his back, and she gasped when he took it off. Half a dozen of her favorite desert lilies were in his arms. "I know it's a hangout and all, but still, I figured I'd get you some lilies," Naruto replied. She blushed as well and picked up the lilies to place in a vase, saying, "Tea. Thank you." She returned to the door and grinned as Naruto held it open for her. "Lilies? Being a gentleman, Naruto's new attire is surprising," she remarked. Naruto gave a still red face to Temari another sly smile and remarked, "Well, I am unpredictable, so I've heard." Once inside, Naruto approached the reception desk and made his reservation using the name, Namikaze. The waiter escorted him and Temari to a private booth at the rear of the restaurant, where they placed their orders and started conversing. "How are things going for you so far? Are you having fun?" Naruto inquired. "What sort of inquiry is that?" As she sipped her glass of water, Temari remarked, "We have just arrived." "I guess you're right. All right, let me ask you another question. So far, how am I doing? Do I annoy you as much as you anticipated?" Naruto glanced at her across the table from where he was sitting and asked. "To be honest, yes you are," Temari smirked. "Oh, really?" Naruto placed his hand under his chin in a contemplative position and remarked, "I don't think I've been that bad. But you're not as annoying as I initially believed. That's a good annoyance," she uttered rapidly. "All right. That's all right," Naruto smiled. "Naruto, may I ask you a question?" Temari uttered those words. "You just did." Temari shook her head at Naruto, who laughed and said, "But ask away. What made you choose to spend a few years away from Konoha? Why did you leave?" Slowly, Temari asked. After giving the question some thought, Naruto took a breath and responded. "I couldn't handle it. The villagers' words and glares at me remained constant. It was more than I could handle. Furthermore, the council chose to elevate Sasuke to Junin as soon as he returned. As a lowly genin, I remained stuck in the interim. I was well aware that I could defeat Sasuke and at least half of the current Junin. In addition, the one girl I thought I loved, well, actually loved, decided to move on from me as soon as Sasuke returned and pursued him. And he took her in this time. It was more than I could handle. I can see those two kissing and cuddling whenever I'm around them, and I can hear the terrible villagers' words." Naruto paused for a moment, realizing that he was only beginning. "I don't deserve that. I took down a lot of Akatsuki. I spent 17 years being referred to as dead last, or demon, because I prevented your brother from destroying Konoha, and I had no justification for remaining there with such valuable people. I am aware of that. But it really doesn't make sense to stay when your precious people are so few in number. Furthermore, Sasuke unexpectedly receives a nomination for the next Rokudame, adding fuel to the pathetic forest fire of deceit. Furthermore, I never had the opportunity to explore my feelings for the one person who had loved me since I was a child because she passed away in my arms. I'll never know if it would have ever been mutual because I didn't know." A warm tear ran down Naruto's cheek, and he hesitated. "Are you familiar with what it's like to put your all into something and then receive nothing in return? Have you ever been lonely for a long time and then found someone to console you, only to feel lonely again? Do you understand what it's like to learn that the one person who loved and admired you sacrificed their life for you? That the person you admired was not only your father but also the one who ensnared a demon within you, causing you to suffer greatly and lead a terrible life? Do you have any idea how it feels to be kept in the dark by people who have known for a long time?" As more tears streamed down, Naruto wiped his face quickly and said. Then he sensed arms encircling him. He jerked his head up to see Temari's arms encircling him. "I apologize for how difficult your life has been. I apologize for the numerous times you have been deceived." With tears streaming down her cheeks, Temari whispered to him, "I'm sorry for all the loneliness and pain you must have experienced." Even after dinner arrived, they continued to act in that manner for some time until Naruto decided to switch the subject and they began discussing other things that were happening in their immediate surroundings. After dinner, Naruto escorted Temari outside. "So, what comes next?" Temari inquired. With a "I know something you don't" smirk on his face, Naruto remarked, "That's a surprise." Temari made the decision to ignore the reply. They soon arrived at an empty playground, where Naruto led her to a swing set and instructed her to take a seat. "We're going to spend some time acting like children once more." Having said that, Naruto then transformed into an 8-year-old Naruto and seized another pair of swings beside her. "Let's enjoy ourselves." Temari gave him a strange look before grinning and reverting to her 8-year-old self. It felt so much like what her childhood should have been like. A few hours later, Temari was having a great time playing tag with him, running down slides, competing to see who could swing the highest, and playing on monkey bars. She had never had the opportunity to do this when she was younger because she was confined inside all day training. "Tag it." As Naruto slapped her arm playfully and fled, Temari laughed and chased after him, laughing as he hopped over objects and used ninja skills. He eventually fled the playground and led her somewhere, and she kept chasing him, not caring where they were going. They had run into a field where training was conducted, and eventually Naruto stopped running and was tackled into the sand. Temari landed on top of Naruto, who was covered in sand, and the two of them laughed as they released their henge and were exhausted from the long run. "Enjoying yourself?" Naruto grinned as he spoke. "Yes, I am. I appreciate you being a gentleman and providing a pleasant evening." Temari smirked and said, "Perhaps you're not a pervert after all." "I'm telling you. That was not what I intended to do," Naruto remarked. "I was just about to touch the door when something pushed me in your direction." "You were pushed?" "Really?" When Temari and Naruto realized what had happened, their eyes widened. "I felt something push me too." "Gaara." The two shouted at the same time. "I was aware of a problem," Naruto complained. "I heard some sand, but I didn't think anything of it." Then a smile came over him. "Hey, are you up for retaliating against him?" Kankuro, who I am, was definitely involved as well. As a very foxy grin emerged, causing Temari to get cold sweats once more, Naruto asked. What are you thinking of?" Unconsciously cuddling up to Naruto because she was feeling a little chilly, she asked. No one would ever know, but her ears were extremely sensitive to touch, and he was right there. "Well, how about," Naruto whispered in her ear, Temari struggling to hide the fact that he was having some sort of effect on her. She took a deep breath of relief when he was done, then grinned and nodded. "Naruto, you are a very cunning person, aren't you?" She smiled as she spoke. With an equal smile, Naruto said, "You can say that again." Before Naruto finally moved, they exchanged silent glances for a long time. "Well, shall we head home?" As he reluctantly released her, Naruto uttered those words. Once both of them had gotten up and cleaned themselves up, they left each other to reflect alone. Naruto thought to himself, "She smells so good, I actually don't think I wanted to get up. I hope she's not upset with me. I just couldn't help myself. I can't explain it." As Temari turned to face Naruto, she thought, "He's so warm. I hope he doesn't think I'm mad or anything. I'm just so confused. I mean, it's Naruto. But, is that really a bad thing?" Temari blushed as she felt warmth rise from her stomach to her face and offered a small gesture of gratitude when Naruto saw that she was shivering as they walked back. Naruto grinned and removed his trench coat, wrapping it around himself. They arrived at the house shortly after, and Temari called to Naruto before he went to his door, as he held the door open for her and ascended the stairs directly behind her. "Naruto, I hope you don't think I'm mad at you," she replied. "You're not?" Naruto inquired, somewhat taken aback. "Not at all. Since nothing occurred, I don't believe there is a problem. It was chilly, and we were just trying to catch our breath," she inquired. "Yes, you were correct. I never imagined how cold it would get at night. I will adjust it. I'm happy you had a pleasant evening," Naruto grinned. "Yes, I did. We ought to repeat this. What about tomorrow?" She smiled and blushed slightly as she asked. Naruto's face dropped. He wanted to, but he couldn't. "I wish I could, but I'm unable to." Without glancing at her, Naruto remarked, "I kind of have a date tomorrow." Temari experienced a strange emotion that she was unable to explain, but it was a hint of rage toward Naruto. "All right. It's okay." As Temari hurriedly opened and shut the door, she said, "Well, thank you, and good night." Then she threw herself back against it and sprang for the bed, repeatedly asking herself why Naruto had made her feel this way as she fell. With a strange feeling that Temari was angry, Naruto let out the breath he had never realized he had held as the door closed. He hurried to his room and shut the door without turning on the lights, simply standing by it and closing his eyes. As he slowly slid to the floor, all he could think about was what Temari had said at the restaurant. "I apologize for how difficult your life has been. I apologize for the numerous times you have been deceived. I apologize for the suffering you must have endured. The loneliness of it all. Naruto.san. What? You got hit again? What? When Naruto looked up, he saw that he was actually sprawled out on the training floor, his 5 students staring down at him. Are you okay? You've hit the floor for the second day in a row, Minashi remarked. After getting up and cleaning himself up, Naruto said, no nothing, just thinking. He then dismissed his students and went to the house to take a shower and prepare for his second date. In the home, Naruto ducked as soon as he stepped inside the house because a flurry of kunai and shuriken struck the door from which he had just entered. When he walked in to see who would throw weapons at the door, Naruto's perspiration dropped when he heard a voice say, "Sorry." Temari appeared, sitting on the kitchen counter and reading a ninja magazine that featured a display of battle fans. For what purpose was that? Naruto asked, hoping she would respond to his question because he knew why she had thrown it. She didn't. With a shrug, Naruto made the decision to try announcing his date once more to see what would happen. Alright, I'm going to shower and prepare for my date. See why. As another round of kunai and shuriken arrived, Naruto never completed his sentence and hurriedly shunshined away to his room while giggling. I never assumed she was the envious kind. Let's see how far I can push this. After an hour, Naruto left the Subaku estate wearing a nice black sports jacket, blue jeans, black shoes, and a navy blue shirt with an orange tie. He also carried a hidden pouch with kunai in case enemies wanted to interrupt his date. 2 guards stopped him as he approached the location where Saw had told him the Kazuma clan headquarters were. Halt! What's your business here? A guard inquired. Ooze. Namikaze Naruto is my name. Naruto bowed low and silently thanked Neji for the formal lessons he had received months earlier. I am here to pick up Kazuma. It is in your power, and I would like to be granted entry. The guards glanced at one another, nodded, and then opened the clan house's doors. You may enter Namikaze.san. Naruto got up and said, Thank you very much. He entered a massive estate that had at least 20 acres of grassland, a pond in the center of the clan building, and an assortment of flowers throughout. Then he approached the front door and knocked twice, and when it opened, he saw a girl wearing a pink blouse, a green skirt, black fishnet stockings, and green high heels. She had dark green hair and brilliant purple eyes. Why hello Naruto.kun, Saw said, blushing slightly at his appearance, as she widened the door to let him in. Despite his best efforts to avoid a nosebleed from the stunning appearance that Saw was giving him, Naruto entered the mansion and was shown to a room where he saw Minashi sitting on a couch, a man with purple hair and green eyes, and a woman with green hair and purple eyes, whom Naruto assumed to be Sai's mother. Bowed low, Naruto said, Good afternoon to the Kazuma family. Hey, Naruto.san. The man got up and said, We've heard a lot about you. He then approached Naruto and the man threw a right punch at Naruto, who sidestepped it immediately. He then threw a right kick at Naruto's shin, but Naruto sidestepped it, backed away, and assumed a defensive stance. He then turned to face the woman who threw him a sword, took it in his hand, and ran towards Naruto, swinging it with fluid movements. The man continued to attack Naruto until he finally stopped and put the sword back in its sheath. Naruto turned to face the man and straightened out of his stance, not even gasping for air and not even with any scratches on his body or clothing. After a long moment of staring at one another, the man started laughing. The man said, You have very good reflexes, Naruto. He approached Naruto, who remained motionless since he sensed that the man had no intention of hurting him, and then he took Naruto's hand and shook it. As the fight took them outside and into the lawn, the man put his arm around Naruto and led him back inside the house, saying, Name is Kazuma Ichiro. The man and his wife, Kazuma Kanako, led Naruto inside and explained the reason for the attack. They also discussed the clan and Suna life in great detail. After hearing what had just been reported to him, Naruto was in a daze when he and Saw left the house. So, with a nervous smile, Saw replied, Yeah. And Saw said, Yes. But Saw put her arms around one of his and leaned into him, blushing, saying, It will be okay. After a few minutes of walking in silence, Naruto made the decision to remain optimistic. Well, how about we go get some food? Naruto uttered those words. Saw grinned. Let's. Naruto took her to the top of a hill to look at the sky after they had finished their meal. Naruto finally broke down after a considerable amount of silence. I apologize. With an expression of incredulity, Naruto questioned her, but why would your clan allow you to do such a thing? Saw didn't say anything until he asked. Saw turned her gaze from him to the moon in the sky and remarked, The elders believe that it is the best way for the clan to prosper. Naruto was at a loss for what to do because he was shocked by the clan's treatment of Saa. Rewind, Naruto. Before we go in there I have to tell you something, Ichiro replied. What is it? Naruto inquired, recognizing from Ichiro's face that the matter was significant. Ichiro remarked, our clan is truly unlike any other clan, Naruto. A look of bewilderment twisted Naruto's face. What are you saying? Did he ask? As he started to say what he knew would make Naruto's face look like his, Ichiro's face went white. Naruto, the minute you said yes to Saa's date, you have agreed to own her. Uncertain of what Ichiro had just said, Naruto asked him to elaborate. To put it simply, Naruto, Saa is now your bearer, wife, and servant. Murmured Naruto. After that, he seized Saa and drew her into an embrace. Naruto muttered, I'll take you away from them. I promise I'll be with you. Allowing a girl to be used in this way was unacceptable to him. Saa whispered her gratitude to him while sobbing into his arms. In a whisper, Naruto said, what a day, after 2 years. Sakura asked, when will we see Naruto-kun again? Tsunade refused to budge despite her and the other members of the Konoha 11, actually 10, but who was counting, making a lot of effort to get something out of her. You will see him in 5 years. I have told you that. What part of that don't you understand? Tsunade replied. Regardless of the fact that it was an SS class mission, Sakura remarked, but why did he get to go on a solo mission for so long? And where is he for that matter? Tsunade firmly stated, I do not have to answer to you. Sakura and Ino agreed. Yes you do. This is Naruto we're talking about here. Why does he get to leave anyway? Why couldn't Sasuke-kun go on this mission? Sakura answered. Tsunade rubbed her forehead in exasperation and sighed. She was going to lose it because this girl kept bugging her. Neji leaned against the wall and remarked, I think it is best for us to be patient. Haruno-san. We will see Naruto again in 5 years. I agree with my youthful rival. Naruto is probably training to become even stronger and I cannot wait to fight him in a youthful battle, Lee replied. Sasuke said, you and me both. Neji concurred. After learning of Naruto's mission, the 3 of them had been training as diligently as ever. They wanted to spar with him as soon as he got back because they thought he was going on another training adventure. It doesn't matter anyway, he's still the dead, last to me, always has been always will be. Kiba replied. Then, he sensed that many of the Konoha 11 in the room were giving him fierce glares. Kiba, I don't think Naruto was as slow as you think. I think he was very intelligent and had many brains. Shino remarked, he simply never had the chance or opportunity to use it. The other 11 members of Konoha found themselves nodding silently. Slowly, the other 11 Konoha members started discussing further how to locate him. If you're listening, Kami Sama, could you please help me? A message carrier flew into her office as if she were lucky, huh? The Kunoichi and Shinobi fell silent as Tsunade read the letter's message before her eyes almost burst. Wow. Gaara's workspace. In the years that Naruto had lived in Suna, a lot had changed. He continued to train his genin for the exam, leading a 3.nin squad when the groups were finally separated, and he kept the situation with Saa a secret that only a select few knew. That year, he finally met Gaara's girlfriend Mizuri, who made Naruto laugh because he knew she had Gaara in her clutches. Additionally, he kept becoming closer friends with Kankuro and many of Suna's other nin. If there was one thing he detested, it was Kairo. Baka, the self-described rival for Temari's love. Jutsu no flashback. Trapped between a rock and a hard place, Naruto said, you cannot be serious. After returning from a relatively simple mission to deal with some bandits, which was completed in 4 days, he and Temari were currently hanging out. They were in a strange mall that Naruto had never seen in Suna, but he was still learning about it, and they were in a clothes store, which brings us to our current predicament. Naruto hated it when Temari swayed up to him and rubbed her hands across his chest because he knew that he would automatically say yes to whatever she asked next. Curse her lovely eyes, which made him think of the sea. There are only 15 dresses and 10 shoes. Na.ru.to.kun. She whispered in his ears, I'm sure we can work, something you. Naruto felt blood dripping from his nose, but he used his repress jutsu to stop it. Alright, I'll purchase it. One of Naruto's clones snarled, now, please stop playing that jazz music. As Temari squealed and thanked him, his clone said, sure thing boss, then he winked and sighed. He only ended up spending money on her at the 5th store, and while he didn't mind, it didn't mean he would make things easy for her. Gamma. Shan is very unfortunate. A smooth, sounding voice said, Temari. Hime. Fancy meeting you here of all places, I was just talking about you. Temari let out a sigh as Cairo entered, dressed in a white versus necktie, shirt, blue jeans, and ninja shoes. She pretended to smile and said, Cairo.san. The nin kept making advances, which was gradually starting to irritate Naruto and Temari. Whenever the two of them tried to get together, he would show up and ruin the atmosphere. The many chocolates, teddy bears, and flowers he sent her in the mail served the ideal purposes. Kankuro ate the chocolates. Gaara used the teddy bears for Mazuri, and the maids loved the flowers. When will you respond to my inquiry and allow me to ask you out on a date, Temari? Hime? As he moved between them and carefully wrapped his arm around Temari's waist, he said, I'm sure I can take you to a place that this no-name fool couldn't. Or would have before Naruto's powerful grip was felt. Naruto growled at Cairo and said, Listen Baka, she said no the first time, leave it alone. Cairo held his head up as though he was looking down on Naruto and said smoothly, Get your greasy hands off of me, you are touching royalty. Naruto clenched his fist and snarled, Well, your highness, if you don't hit the road and step away, you'll find me to be royally pissed. Temari grinned at the fact that Naruto was so envious of Cairo. Who would have guessed that he was the jealous type? What happens if I don't? As he took a kunai out of his pocket out of instinct, Cairo said. Well, let's go outside and communicate with our fists, King. Baka, Naruto snarled. All right, I won't let Temari Hime fall in love with such a lowly Konoha shinobi. You are not deserving of her company, much less sharing a room with her. As he closed his eyes and visualized kissing Temari in the moonlight and stars, Cairo said, Temari is a princess who has been blessed by the moon and the stars, and the sun itself shines on her from above. Well, Naruto, how about we go grab some food? Temari remarked as she and Naruto left, her arms encircling his left arm. Obviously. As the two of them left the store, Naruto grinned and said, I was feeling hungry myself and can go for some tempura. Cairo snarled angrily at the two. They had done that 15 times before. Kai. When Temari finally told him that she would never feel the same for him, Cairo stopped pursuing him. When he asked her if she remembered how he used to treat her brother, she replied that she did not forget the harsh words he used to say to him. When he tried to make her kiss him, he was immediately given the beating of his life. Temari in a rage was not a pretty sight. Despite knowing the loophole, Naruto kept getting closer to her without ever telling her about his situation. Which leads him to his current location. So you have the right to claim this member as your own? With a neutral expression, Gaara inquired. Naruto said, yes. So, what will you do with her? Gazing at Saa, Gaara uttered those words. What are your thoughts? Naruto uttered those words. What are you saying? Gaara inquired bewilderedly. With a determined fist in his hands, Naruto said solemnly, I accept. In addition, I must begin the process of rebuilding my clan. I've given this a lot of thought. I believe it's the best. I've studied my clan's regulations. The Clan Restoration Act applies to me. After a lengthy discussion with Saa, Naruto said, so I can still have her under me, and still be considered single. They had decided that she would be his wife and that he could remain single in accordance with the clan's regulations. As he signed the paperwork, Gaara remarked, I see. Saa was now a namikaze. The ear that heard the entire conversation went unnoticed. Beyond the door, before Naruto looked up and saw Temari standing there, he and Saa had gone outside, laughing and whispering to each other. Saya silently took this as her cue to leave the two alone to talk, and Naruto's eyes widened in shock before he took a step back, unsure of what to do or say. He had intended to tell her about his marriage tonight, but he didn't think she would hear it this way. The only sound in the hallway was the wind outside. With a tear streaming down her cheek, Temari sniffed and said, I don't know what to say. Naruto remained silent and allowed her to continue. I assumed you would be obnoxious. That your presence would be annoying to me. As she approached him slowly, Temari remarked, that I would avoid you. I then stayed with you for a while. I spoke with you. I was able to comprehend some of you. I now understand the type of person you have become. Your values and the reasons behind your actions. How you do things. Temari sniffed again and said, I understand. She sighed as she came to a stop in front of him. Now, he rolled to the ground as Temari slammed her fist into his face. Now, right when I'm beginning to feel like I'm starting to feel something for you, I learn that you're married. I feel like I lost the opportunity to begin building a deeper relationship with you because I feel so cold. I will never be able to forgive myself for allowing you to affect me. I can't be around you right now without wanting to kiss you or kill you, Temari said, wiping her eyes before turning to leave him. He hurriedly said, Temari, wait, while attempting to take her arm. Only to be struck in the face once more. Don't do that. Don't follow me around. Be joyful. Ignore me and live with your wife. Temari turned away and walked away, saying, I have forgotten about you because of Namikaze Naruto. In that ideal world, the following would have occurred. Feeling as though a piece of him had just died, Naruto remained silent and unsure of what to say or do. So, this is heartbreak, Naruto thought to himself. Would he allow her to leave when he had asked Saw about it and read up on his clan book in order to possibly continue to have a chance to figure out his feelings for Temari? Did she realize that she was the reason he was here in the first place? Did she not realize by now that he was acting foolishly because he wanted to hear her voice more? Ninjas are supposed to look beneath the surface, so why was she so shallow? Why didn't he just tell it like that? Why was he unable to find the courage to express his feelings to her? Then the answer came to him, and he clenched his fist in rage. Words were not as powerful as actions. Cease, he shouted. Temari paused, nearly losing her will to leave him, and then resumed her stroll. Avoid straying from me at all costs. As she kept walking, Naruto yelled, and at last he lost his temper and drew out a kunai, which he then threw at her. The hallway was illuminated by a yellow flash, and before Temari stood a panting and teary-eyed Naruto. She knew he hadn't completed the technique yet, but he refused to. Why are you? She was unable to respond as Naruto seized her by the shirt hem and kissed her. Temari's body shivered and her toes curled under his touch, as if she were on the highest of the high. What was he doing to her? Only a few minutes ago, she wanted to kill him, but now she was willing to die for him. With a ragged breath, Naruto whispered after releasing her from his lips. Tell me straight out in 7 days if you truly gave up on me. As he put the kunai in her hands and walked away, leaving Temari to think, Naruto whispered, because I won't give up on you. However, Naruto stayed put and allowed Temari to leave. His heart ached to leave her, perhaps. Temari. Maybe you didn't learn from the first chance, which is why you got a second chance. I've lost one chance, but I'm not going to lose again. In the interim, a figure, wearing a tan hood and the rest of it covering her body, was moving towards Suna before a guard stopped them as they approached the gates. Could you tell me why you are in Suna? As he examined her entrance documents, the man remarked. The voice was obviously female as the person stated, I'm here for Uzumaki Naruto. Could you tell me about your business relationship with him? Said the man. Family business. At the moment, Naruto sighed as he lay on his bed in his room. He had looked everywhere, but she had lived in Suna for years, almost her entire life, so how could he explain to her what had happened and why? If she had heard everything, she must have known about the clan and the mannerisms. It wasn't like he and Temari were even an official couple. They were just good friends, right? And friends let one another lean on one another, right? Friends spent time together. With just them together, Naruto knew for a fact that they occasionally even held hands. Naruto let out another frustrated sigh. Perhaps, in reality, he no longer considered her a friend, but rather someone he could truly call his GI. The sound of a knock on the door interrupted Naruto as he was about to finish thinking. Who is that? Wondering who could possibly be bothering him, Naruto stood up to respond, only to be met by Kankuro's solemn expression. Shutting his eyes, Naruto made the decision to speak first. Look, if it's about Temari, I didn't mean for her to find out about it like duh. Kankuro put on a straight face and said, someone is in Gaara's office with information concerning your family. Kankuro wondered how long he had developed the ability to do that after Naruto's words caught in his throat and he left the room in a bright yellow flash. Office of Kazekage. This was a lot to process right now, and he had nothing to do with it, so it was all the more significant. Gaara sat at his desk and read the scroll the cloaked person had given him. After she had entered the office escorted by his, she would need to schedule an appointment to see him, but this was a little too important to wait for. Gaara didn't know, but he didn't mind at all, because he immediately looked to Gaara for the person who had information about the Uzumaki or Namikaze name. He arched his neck to the person behind him. Then, a flash literally interrupted his thoughts as Naruto entered the office through his window with a yellow bright flash, right above the seal that was planted in the middle of his office. There was silence in the office as Naruto recognized the individual as female, with a few strands of red hair dripping from her long, tan hood. She spoke, and Naruto recognized her voice. Too much of a familiarity, she said, Uzumaki Naruto, I finally found you. Her voice was a mix of relief and anxiety, mixed with tiredness and worry. What do you have to say about my family? I have a lot going on with Konoha and Temari, so I don't have time to stall, Naruto said impatiently. Without saying a word, the woman reached into her cloak, took out a scroll, and gave it to Naruto, whose eyes widened to epic proportions as he quickly skimmed through it, placed the scroll in his pocket with a shaky hand, and whispered. Relatives? The woman gave a nod. Slowly approaching her motionless form, Naruto placed his hands on either side of her hood and gradually took it off. And looked intently into the eyes of Tayuya Uzumaki, the late Nagato Uzumaki's sister, who was abducted by Orochimaru during the Second Shinobi War. With seriousness, she stated, "We have much to discuss." Naruto gave a nod. The pair vanished in a flash. Unknown location. Suna deserts. In her rage, Temari whipped up sand for miles as she sent another wind strike through the desert dunes. For some reason, she was angry that Naruto was married, even though rationally, he was the only clan heir of the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans. He was eligible for the CRA plan in Suna if he chose to stay or return to Konoha. He was an eligible bachelor, and he was familiar with the customs of the clan Sawa came from. Still, why did she become so enraged and frustrated with Naruto that she stormed out of the office? The solution was straightforward: you adore him. However, what frightened her? Denied? Embarrassment? What if he declined? What if he viewed her as merely a friend? However, on their birthdays, friends don't give each other necklaces that cost 3S ranked missions. Friends don't share every aspect of their lives, from early childhood to the present, including the obligations that come with being a Jinchuriki. In between missions, friends don't spend a lot of time together. Temari lost her admirer. Friends don't spend 4 hours chasing each other. However, friends who desired more did. Friends who wanted more did. Caring friends did. She was simply too scared to notice, but Temari had her answer. However, Naruto is the one who should have been scared, fearful of falling in love again, fearful of wanting love and comfort. She fled from him as well. She bolted. Temari hurried back to the palace after turning around and grabbing her fan. She needed to put things right, and she needed to find Naruto. Konoha. As she recently discovered the truth, Tsunade sipped her sake in silence. Even in death, Orochimaru was even more cunning and treacherous. One of Orochimaru's Sound 5, Tayuya, was Nagato's lost relative and Naruto's cousin. Who would have guessed that Nagato, also known as Pain, was also Naruto's cousin? However, she was now reportedly traveling to Suna in order to be reunited with her relative. Perhaps this will help to ease Naruto's painful past. For the upcoming Chunin exams and Naruto's return, which would carry a lot of weight, Tsunade readied herself. He was going to stay in Suna? Was he going to remain in Konoha? Since she had been exchanging letters with Gaara and he appeared to be enjoying life in Suna by going on missions and hanging out with friends, Tsunade could not really blame him if he wanted to stay there. Despite the circumstances, Tsunade grinned. Naruto had not allowed another girl inside for a long time. Following Hinata's passing, he appeared to do nothing but train himself into unconsciousness in the hopes of becoming strong enough to stop another casualty from someone he loved. His darkened heart appeared to be healed by Temari. Tsunade nodded to herself after reading the forms of those who would be traveling from other countries. The exams this year would be impressive. Estate Suna, Subaku. With Tayuya perched on a chair and Naruto perched on the balcony ledge, the two of them watched the sunset and night descend upon the village. When Naruto told Tayuya about his upbringing, they both felt a little uncomfortable because, after being rivals who had fought against one another for different reasons, they were now both transformed shinobi with access to new information. It was expected that they would be quiet and uneasy. Tayuya finally made the decision that it was her turn to talk about her life to that point. Orochimaru abducted me when I was 6 years old. Apparently, he had learned about my clan and our skills, so he put a seal on me that made me forget everything I knew, but the seal was at best flawed, leaving me a violent, foul-mouthed girl with a rather analytical mind and genjutsu skills. Temari was the one who truly assisted me during my battle with Shikamaru all those years ago. I was rendered unconscious. I can't be angry about them leaving me for dead because I would have acted the same way in their shoes. A traveling merchant who was headed to Wave discovered me. I knew nothing about my past existence, including who I was, what I stood for, or what I was capable of. All I could recall was my name and my fighting skills. Your name caught my attention there, and I started to remember things. Since the merchant was leaving town and I wanted to stay in Wave until I could discover who I was, I eventually ended up being looked after by a family. I ended up in the home of people you probably know quite well because I was observing a young boy train with kunai and shuriken, assisting the boy, and finding out who motivated him. His family, Tazuna? Surprised, Naruto asked. Tayuya gave a nod of approval. While I tried to figure out why the name, Uzumaki, had started to give me headaches, I got a job at a flower shop. Another vision came after word got out that you had saved the case cage. It featured water encircling everything, ruins in a place I had never seen before, and a spiral that you've had on your clothes since birth but haven't understood why until recently. To get the information I really wanted, I had to figure out how to get back into Orochimaru's bases because I knew I had to learn why Uzumaki was so crucial. I quickly located the bases and searched through them for information about the clan after learning of his death at the hands of Sasuke. I discovered that I was, in fact, of Uzumaki ancestry and that I was born in aim from the one closest to Suna. Nagato, who you knew as Pain, was the name of my older brother. Having heard it directly from Madara during their last battle, Naruto nodded his head in agreement. Tayuya grinned. However, he is no longer living, leaving me to look for you, and the fact that I heard you left Konoha for Suna was just a stroke of luck. Among other things, I raided Orochimaru's lands for the information I needed and then returned to Wave. When I heard some Chunin talking about your whereabouts while I was in Konoha for a arrangement with the Hokage, I quickly traveled to Suna to locate you, since we are the last Uzumakis left on the planet. However, there is another significant fact that has brought me here. We have to go and find out for ourselves because it is a very important fact, Tayuya stated gravely. Which fact would that be? Asked Naruto sincerely if he had any family-related tasks or obligations, and he will complete them. Tayuya got up and took hold of his shirt. We must visit Uzushiogakure and learn about our past in order to preserve our clan, Naruto. We need our clan to regain the prominence and strength it once possessed. Only then will we be able to learn from the past and know what not to do in the future. My goal is to visit Uzushiogakure. Looking into her eyes, Naruto realized that she was telling the truth when she said, I need you, Naruto. You have to come with me. She was so serious, so prepared, and so determined that Naruto knew she would go with him or not. After taking her hands away from him but keeping them in his, Naruto nodded his head and grinned, but he remained silent at that point because he had already made up his mind. You can take me to Uzushiogakure. After learning more about our clan, we'll bring it back to life. Before jumping into his arms, Tayuya gave him a sincere smile. A voice said, Naruto. Naruto's head snapped as he turned to face the entrance, where he saw a startled Temari. Naruto knew right away how she would respond, and he wasn't looking forward to it. Naruto quickly pulled himself free of Tayuya's hold and raised his hands in a gesture that he hoped would appease her. Avoid leaving yet. I am able to explain. He was taken aback when Temari approached him quietly and slowly, his eyes full of resolve. It makes no difference to me whether she is your wife, your secret lover, or your long-lost cousin Naruto. I have experienced it. When she entered his comfort zone, Temari barked in. He wouldn't be shocked if he and her lips were bleeding after she smashed them into his with such force. Though Naruto had received his share of kisses from Isaribi, villains who sucked his chakra away from him, which both disturbed and aroused him at the same time, Tsunade, Hinata, and others, he was dazed and lost in bliss, as if she was using chakra behind her kiss. Let's not consider that one, though. However, this one was truly remarkable. He experienced every emotion she had, including her anguish, desire, lust, envy, jealousy, love, etc. Temari buried her face in his clothing to avoid the shame, letting go so she could breathe. Temari started to mumble, I don't care who these people mean to you, Naruto. But Naruto's hearing picked her up clearly, and his eyes widened as memories flooded his mind. I love you. Naruto, I have faith in you. A shift. Calm. You're capable. I have always loved you and Naruto-kun. After returning, Naruto realized he needed to respond. So he did. He pushed Temari away, observing the astonishment and pain in her eyes. However, everything changed when he kissed her back. The whole scene made Tayuya perspire. It seemed as though they had forgotten she was there. As the embrace grew more sensual and lustful, Temari grabbed Naruto's shirt and intensified the lip lock. Naruto then grabbed her hips before putting his left arm around her and slightly leaning her back, his other arm flowing with passion. Naruto's eyes widened as he suddenly remembered who was there and what was being discussed. He then pulled his hands and lips away from Temari, and the two of them panted in their haste. Tayuya said, I see you're well on your way to reviving your clan, in a light-hearted manner. Naruto introduced Temari after blushing profusely. Temari, this is my cousin Tayuya. We were discussing visiting Uzushiogakure to learn more about our past. Then I will make it a mission. S-class, you can leave whenever you desire, you will take Temari with you, said a voice. When Naruto turned around, he saw Gaara leaning against the door and grinning at the two of them. Incredulous, Temari stammered and gestured at Gaara. Temari asked, Were you there that whole time? Gaara gave a nod. Temari screamed and struck behind Naruto, causing his perspiration to drop. Gaara questioned, Do you accept the mission? Temari nodded as well, but only Naruto felt her nod on his back. Naruto and Tayuya also nodded. I, Uzumaki Naruto, clan head of the Uzumaki and Namikaze clan, accept this mission to Uzushiogakure to find artifacts concerning my clan. When Naruto, Temari, and Tayuya arrived in the valley close to Wave Country and Kiri, they discovered a massive waterfall gushing water. This is it. Tayuya stated, this is the location of one of the underground routes to Uzushiogakure. It's a waterfall, though. Isn't this a more straightforward way to get to the waterfall village? With skepticism, Naruto asked, and Temari silently concurred. Before she vanished, Tayuya laughed and just moved through the waterfall, a light engulfing her like a portal. Raising his eyebrows a little, Naruto took Temari's hand and followed suit, both of them shining before vanishing into the cavern. Naruto saw that it was done for a reason when he appeared on the other side. There were 20 paths ahead of him, all of them as gloomy and frightening as the last. So this was just a ruse? As he approached the pillar Tayuya was standing in front of, Naruto pointed to the waterfall and asked. For enemies, yes, for us. At this point, Tayuya used the pillar to channel chakra, and the light entered one of the tunnels through the floor. As fire appeared on the walls on either side, the tunnels started to light up. It's just a pathway, Tayuya said as she skipped through the tunnel, with Temari and Naruto trailing behind. The three found a walkway that led to a green whirlpool after what seemed like an eternity of walking. Uzushiogakure can only be reached in this manner, through the vortex, Tayuya said. After glancing at it, Naruto launched himself into the center of the whirlpool without warning. Face first. Tayuya looked at Temari and shook her head before plunging right through and into the water. He is going to be in a world of pain when he gets to the other side. Uzushiogakure, a yelling Naruto fell to the ground from the sky he had come from on the opposite side. He took off his shirt and stood up slowly. When Naruto saw his ancestor's house, he gasped. In front of him were shattered and demolished pillars on the left and right, but he realized how large and strong his clan was and still is after seeing the hundreds of thousands of buildings in front of him and the enormous mansion-like structure miles away. He was positioned on streets that appeared to have been paved with gold. Despite all of the devastation, he thought the village had never been so beautiful. It was a place of royalty and admiration. If not for the wars and the unending jealousy of others, this is where he would have come from. The power struggle and greed. However, that was back then. Now was the time. Naruto said to himself, home. It is for you, indeed. A voice behind him said, Naruto, welcome home. Naruto quickly spun around, but when he saw who was in front of him, he froze. In front of his crouch, two getas were standing. Yes, this was Tsunade. She had a green jacket, strong legs, a lot of cleavage, a diamond on her forehead, and blonde hair. Over her chest, Tsunade folded her arms. Behind her stood Shizune and Kakashi, who were also there. What? You were supposed to come here alone. Naruto just gave a nod, happy to see you too, Granny. At home. On this alien land that felt like home, the waves crashed. Naruto sat with a view of the land from the edge of a cliff. Naruto wondered how he might be able to alter what he was seeing. History erased out of fear, devastation and degradation as far as the eye could see. Water swirled in his tear ducts, and emotions swirled in his stomach like the whirlpools he was seeing. Is he right to be upset? Sad? Glad he was able to see this location? His people were exterminated from the planet, along with his homeland and his original family. He had everything that remained. What was he supposed to do? What choices did he have? Could he restore Uzushiogakure to its former glory, strength, and power if he were to take control of this place and replace the land? He reflected on everything he had lost. The result was the person he became. A shinobi's life was one of sacrifice rather than self-interest. About sacrificing something of yourself for the benefit of the country you served. Could he repeat it? Could he fulfill the one dream he had always had? A cage? For the people who probably needed it most, for this land. Yes. Now get to work and quit pouting. A voice that he hadn't heard in a long time rumbled. Then he realized. He was aware of his obligations. Tsunade would become his ally, followed by Kirikagure. He would inquire once. Only once. All the countries that pillaged his country. Any year in the land, anyone who would listen. To give back the stolen item. Come home if you were hiding out of fear of your family. And if they didn't pay attention, if these countries chose to act foolishly. He would win if he went to war. But they would agree because they knew the countries as well as he did. He was thinking when he sensed someone standing beside him. Her question was, "Are you okay?" He grinned. She allowed herself to be vulnerable with him despite her anger and frustrations. "I will be," declared Naruto. Okay. Suffering was enough. He wasn't Sasuke. He wasn't like this. He picked himself up off the cliff he was sitting on, slapped his face twice and dusted himself off. And made a cross with his hands. Observing his lover? A girlfriend? Intended? He asked her to figure out another thing. "I will take charge of this country and restore it to its former splendor. Are you with me?" Temari was asked by Naruto. She responded right away. Always. In a huge cloud of smoke. The Uzumaki clan was irrevocably altered. With drive, strong relationships, entire countries that adore and respect you, and of course, the potent, talk.no. Jutsu, Naruto reflected, a lot can change. Things were set up in a few months. Following the Chunin exams, Naruto received the support of Nami no Kuni, Yuki no Kuni, the land of demons, and several other smaller nations. Kiri, Kumo, and reluctantly Iwa had consented to send aid. Well, that should go without saying, Suna and Konoha. 7 days. Naruto started the infrastructure stages after clearing the land of any damage or debris in 7 days. Working non-stop while taking brief breaks. He looked for any hidden locations, scrolls, etc. with the help of Tsunade, Tayuya, Temari, and the Suna Nin who accompanied them. Discovering seals and informational gold mines. As the leader, Naruto had it all. They constructed a building to stay as their first and only construction. Now there was a strategy. Time to head back to Suna. 1 week remained until the Chunin exams.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.